but I can definitely talk about some of the insights that we as an organization have gathered in our interactions with the clients and industry players over the last couple of years to understand what are some of the emerging trends coming out of pandemic. How do those trends affect work, workforce, and workforce management? Little trip down the memory lane, 23rd March 2020, I can never forget that day for two reasons. One, we were moving to work from home. We never knew for how long. And I was in the office arranging some last minute logistics, the laptops and extra monitors and so on and so forth. And the entire floor was dark because it has sensors, right? If nobody walks on the floor gets dark. And I actually felt sad looking at somebody had left their jacket, water bottle, some toys, those McDonald's toys that people decorate their desks with. And I was wondering, when are we ever going to return to office? And on that day, I was hoping that someday we will all return to office 100%. Today, as I stand here, it looks like hybrid is the future. Hybrid is the new normal. Anyway, so that's one reason why I remember that day. The other reason is that's also my wife's birthday, and we had to cancel our plans. I have hopefully made some amends because today morning, 4 o'clock, I have seen her off to London, so hopefully she should be forgiving me now. What have these 2 years taught us? First and foremost, work from home is possible. And I'm standing here representing Northern Trust. We have about $17 billion of assets under custody, over $1.5 billion under management. Very high risk, high critical, mission critical functions that we perform. And if we could perform work from home for 2 years, and it's not just us, the entire industry was in it together, then one thing is proven that it is possible. It has also defaulted the managers to trust their employees. Even within Northern Trust, earlier if somebody would come up with a request to work from home or extended maternity covered in the sense that, can I work from home for another 2 months? And it used to be a long procedure. HR would need to approve it, and I don't know why 3 levels of managers have to approve everything. But last 2 years have proven that flexibility is possible. Everybody has liked the flexibility. Everybody has missed their office environment. The reality lies somewhere in between, and that is what hybrid is going to offer. Organizations that have started to enforce working from office very aggressively are already seeing some collateral impact of that. Employees not liking it. The Great Resignation is one such example, and so on. If you look at the history of pandemics, there seems to be a consistent pattern. I won't go into the details, but if you're really interested in that, I would highly recommend you watch Jeremy Gucci's lectures. It's all over on YouTube. He's chief innovator, great keynote speaker, and he talks about how after each pandemic there is heightened economic activity, there is more automation, there is more innovation, and people have an unprecedented, almost disproportionate amount of risk appetite. They become more adventurous, they want to try new things, and so on and so forth. So hybrid is the mainstream. And what does it mean for the gathering in this hall? It means that office spaces will need to be redesigned differently. You need more flexibility, you need more collaboration, you need more agility in the design of the spaces. It also means what happens to data security. I think that there was a wonderful point made earlier in the day. There used to be such tight restrictions around data protocols. You can't carry a white sheet onto the floor. You can't write something. You have to deposit phones somewhere. And to be honest, for a couple of our clients, we've done that. These are clients with hundreds of billions of dollars in assets. But what happened when people were working from home? So again, the leadership and management and the business in general had to default to trust. However, as there is a Russian saying, trust but verify. So the data security has to continue to be at the core of what we do, even in the hybrid environment, perhaps more in the hybrid environment. Shortage of critical talent. This is going to be another reality post-pandemic. And there are a couple of reasons for that. One is the Great Resignation. We've all heard about it. In 2021, For the first time ever, on an average, 4 million people quit in the United States. What does it mean? It means by the time the year end came, November 2021, for every eligible job worker, there were 1.73 jobs open. And what does that mean? The work has to go somewhere. It will then go to India and Philippines and Vietnam. What does that mean? There will be something called wage inflation. So don't be surprised if you see 40-50% jumps being offered in the market. Too many jobs chasing too few skilled people. And that shortage of critical talent will continue. Well-being is going to be a key metric, and I heard a lot about data and the tools and technologies. Please keep this in mind. We have seen the human face of leadership. Gone are the days when the leaders are, stoic and always wearing a suit and a tie. I mean, I'm wearing this because I'm in the revenge attire mode. I want to wear all my suits that I haven't worn in last 2 years. But we saw them in round neck t-shirts. We saw cats jumping into video calls, right? And that is to say that the new leader or the new leadership behaviors are about vulnerability, being human, being empathetic, having compassion. How do we integrate all of that into the systems and tools and our technologies is going to be the key. In my 22 years, I've never seen well-being talked so passionately in the boardrooms. And this is about physical well-being, emotional and mental well-being. A point on inclusion. When we work in hybrid environment, inclusion can be at risk, right? How do you interact equally with those, or equitably, with those who are right in front of you versus those who are connected remotely? And this can cause proximity bias, right? You tend to pay more attention to somebody sitting right next to you versus somebody who is connected remotely. So some practices like remote first have to be encouraged. You are in a hybrid call, you give the first opportunity to somebody who is connected remotely so that they don't feel excluded out of the conversation. And I call it presence equity. The leadership presence, how do the leaders feel, how do they ensure that their presence is felt equitably in the room and in the virtual room? Number 5, turnover will continue to be a challenge. I touched upon some of that a little while ago. Too many jobs, and there's a big myth that we have created that automation can take away jobs. I think there was I must say, ridiculous study, and it was in the Economic Times a couple of years ago, and it quoted World Bank saying 82% of the jobs will be done by robots. I think nothing can be farther than true. And my favorite example is ATMs, right? Have you ever seen a banking branch that doesn't have a teller, right? And so ATMs have revolutionized the cash dispersal. Banks have benefited because they can carry more cash for greater number of days. Customers can withdraw whatever amount they need. So it's actually a win-win for everybody. And look at the number of jobs that just the ATMs have created. There is a cash replenishment agency, there is a security person, there is a server, there is air conditioning, there is a real estate, and so on. So the jobs and the demand for new jobs will continue, and turnover. I don't know when it will stabilize, but for the foreseeable future, we are going to see this challenge. Another reason for that, and this is my favorite insight coming from Simon Sinek, he says, people have learned to take extreme risks. In the last 2 years, all of us have lost someone who we knew, or we've lost somebody who knew someone. Untimely, unnatural. When you go through such a catastrophic event, it causes psychic numbing. Nothing feels riskier anymore, and people are now willing to take those risks and find meaning in their lives and chase their passions. And that is also causing people to have low emotional ties with their organizations. You've anyways been operating in a disconnected environment where every conversation was nothing more than a transaction. Right? So multiple factors that will continue to push the attrition higher. Managers' roles are also changing. They are no longer managing human resources. They are leading people and managing resources. What does it mean? It means the new courage looks like empathy and vulnerability. Soft skills are the new hard skills. It's easy for you to hire somebody who is a data analytics expert or a CRM expert or a robotics expert, but it will be increasingly difficult for somebody to be a good general manager and say, you know it better than me, I'm here to facilitate and make sure that you excel at your job. And that's going to be the really premium skill. Last but not the least, data collection is going to be exploding. And I was very interested in listening to some of the speeches made earlier, and everybody is talking about data. I think the lady a little while ago also spoke about some indices around employee engagement. We need to start studying the emotion behind data. Text analytics, sentiment analysis, natural language processing, these are all going to play a big role. How do you, so engagement scores, right? How do you move beyond the arithmetic? How do you just go beyond the pie charts and the graphs and really analyze the textual data that your employees are giving? How do you make models that can read between the lines and make some prediction or at least some sense around what are your employees thinking? As we do that, data is extremely exciting. We all want to do more with data. We all want our decisions to be enabled by data. One word of caution, regulators are watching data like never before. And all regulators learn from one another. Central Bank of Ireland does something today, and UK PRA follows the next day. GDPR is in vogue already. And especially as you are looking at global operations, it's extremely important that you look at what are the data-related regulations in those respective global jurisdictions that you need to be aware of. So that's one big call out from a regulatory perspective. With that, I want to end by saying future will belong to the leaders who have the courage to make the change and the humility to accept the change. Thank you very much.